Hello people, I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. I am, as always, and it's a pleasure to be here today. If you're new here, my name is Oyinkan and I'm very happy to have you join us, and I hope that you hit the red subscribe button and just enjoy all the content that I put out. So in today's video, I am coming to tell you guys all the good stuff about my trip to Mpumalanga, how I was able to take that trip, and basically tips for you if you're planning to take a trip there. Why? Because I promised to do this and I'm just here to deliver. Okay, meanwhile, speaking of that trip, guys, if you do not follow me on Instagram, then I don't know if you would actually be able to enjoy all the good content I filmed during that time. Yes, I know that I have put out vlogs, and if you have not watched those vlogs, bombastic side eye. But yeah, even aside the vlogs, guys, I made some really creative stuff that I put on my Instagram, and I know that you're going to thoroughly enjoy that. So please check out my Instagram handle. I'm sure that my handle is like popping up on the screen from time to time during this video. So yeah, check it out. All right, so for context, I went to Mpumalanga in April for Easter. It was me and my husband. We took a road trip from KZN, from Ladysmith KZN, and we went all the way to Nelspruit. We stayed at Blyde River, and yeah, it was just a really fun time. We took our time to plan the trip, and I'm so glad that we were able to make it like come to pass. That's the context. That's why I'm making this video. I'm going to be telling you guys how we're able to book our accommodation, the places we visited, and how you can visit those places too, and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So number one tip is budgeting, and this is the most important thing. Obviously, budgeting is like the first step you have to take before you plan a trip to Mpumalanga or to the moon or to wherever you want to go. How much do you have that you can realistically spend on this trip? Depending on your budget, depending on how much you can afford to spend, then you'd be able to decide what kind of accommodation to go for, how many days to stay, what kind of experiences you want, and stuff like that. So you just need to be realistic with yourself. You don't even need to have like all the money at once. You just need to decide, okay, if I want to go in April and I want to spend say 20k, then am I able to realistically save 20k by April? That's just the first thing. You have to have a realistic budget, and then everything else that you do should flow from the point of your budget. Second tip is plan your dates and plan the number of people that are going on this trip with you. So is it going to be a solo trip? Is it a couples trip? Is it a group trip? Personally, I would recommend you go during every other season but winter, because I know that animals tend to hibernate during the winter, and yeah, it can just be slow. If you go during the winter, you may not really enjoy yourself, because I mean, you're sitting in a car the whole time and you're exposed to whatever the weather is. So try not to go during the winter. Try not to go when it's super rainy, because that's also quite unpleasant. So summer, of course, summer is the best time, but like other seasons like spring, like autumn, I think you can make do with that as well. It is important to communicate with the people you're going with, because you don't want a case where there's a group of 5 of you and then everybody has agreed to dates and all of a sudden somebody has changed dates after you've booked for stuff like accommodation and transportation. That's just going to make your costs go all the way up. So you want to make sure that you know who you're going with, everybody has been communicated to, and everybody is planning, you know, the same way that you are planning. Number 3, let's talk about transportation. How are you going to get there, right? So I know that there are 2 main options, which is road transportation and going by air, right? Now, first of all, let's talk about going by road. So we went by road. We drove up there, and it was about a 5.5-hour drive altogether. And before we went, we actually checked on Google Maps for the routes. So one thing I would recommend you do is check your routes before you even travel. Not like the day you're traveling, you hop into the car and then you just put on your Google Maps and go. No, check your routes like a week before, especially depending on the driver that is taking you if you're going by road. Why? So in our case, we have a neighbor who's actually from that side, and when we told him that we were traveling there in like the next few days, he told us about the different routes that we could take, because we had just seen, oh yeah, there's a route on Google Map, whatever. But then he was able to tell us that, oh, there are 2 routes, right? There's the Barberton Mountains and there is the N4. Now on the Barberton Mountains, you want to be sure that your driver is a professional driver, because it is like this, like it's like you're tracing a snake or something. It's very windy, I think that's the word. So yeah, the roads are like that, lots of bends, and you need to drive super cautiously, super carefully, so that you don't get into any accidents, and you're conscious of other drivers on the road. So it's advisable that if you are going with like a professional driver who's, you know, done this before, then they can go that route. However, if your driver is a rookie or a bit timid or whatever the case, then it's advisable that you use the N4, because that's just a normal freeway that, you know, you've probably been on before. So yeah, that's my tip for road transportation. However, if you're going by air, two things you need to know. One, you might need a vehicle when you get there to move around. So if you're going to Mpumalanga, chances are you want to go to Kruger, you want to go to the Panorama Route. Those are not places you Uber to. Yeah, those are not places you just, you know, get in some random car and go to, because they are very remote areas. So chances are you might not find transportation that can take you there just by, you know, checking something online. So it makes more sense to have maybe a car waiting for you there, perhaps a car rental or something. Now let's talk about accommodation and feeding. Guys, now for this, there is a class of people who can afford to stay inside Kruger National Park. And unfortunately, I'm not yet one of those people. The goal is to obviously become that, because the accommodation costs 11k thereabouts per night. Yeah, 8 to 11,000 rands per night. So if you can afford that, then by all means go for it, because you're going to even enjoy being inside Kruger all the more. However, if you're trying to plan a budget trip, then I recommend you start checking for hotels. Now, in our case, we knew that we wanted to take this trip for Easter, and Easter is obviously peak season where people are traveling around. If you go and you want to book a trip like 2 days before or a week before during Easter, of course, it's going to cost a fortune. So we actually thought about this since September last year, and we made a booking for our accommodation. Now, I'm not saying you have to book like way in advance like us. Even if you're going in 3 months time, then now is the time to check and book your accommodation. Anything from 3 weeks to your travel date is already a bit late, and your cost is going to go all the way up, especially if you're staying multiple nights, which of course is what I advise. Don't stay one night, of course. Book a place that you can travel in advance. So in my case, the place that we had booked was somewhere where you could cancel 2 weeks prior to your trip. So we have this booking since September. The price is not going up, and then 2 weeks before our travel date, we can decide, oh, you know what, this trip is no longer feasible, we're going to cancel, and we haven't paid. It's just a booking, and so we won't be charged for anything. So you can check on TripAdvisor, you can check on booking.com, and please, whatever you do, whenever you want to book a place, whether it's for this trip or any trip in the world, read reviews. There are some places where people have gone and they have experienced before you, and they will tell you for free through reviews that this place is a no-go. Whereas there are certain places where people have loved their stay and they would highly recommend to you. So yeah, make sure you read reviews. Make sure you don't pay immediately when you book, because anything can happen. You can travel your trip, you can cancel your trip. Did I say travel? Yeah. You can cancel your trip, and yeah, don't put yourself in that situation where you're fighting back for your money and all that good stuff. Another accommodation hack is to book an accommodation that comes with breakfast. Okay, so now the thing with traveling is you're going to want to eat a lot and stuff, right? But if you've had a very good, very solid breakfast in the morning, then chances are you're just snacking on stuff in the afternoon, and then you go for like a proper dinner again. Our accommodation did come with breakfast, and a well-deserved shout out to Hotel 247 at Blyde River, which is where we stayed. The breakfast there was phenomenal. It was really good. Typically, accommodation around the Nelspruit / Blyde River area would cost you 700 to 1,200 rand a night. And so you just want to calculate how many days you're staying times those figures, and just to help you get like a realistic figure for what you might be spending. Now let's talk about the good stuff, which is the tourist activities, right? Of course, if you're going to Mpumalanga, if you're traveling all that way, you want to have a good time, you want to tour the area and everything. And the main attractions there are: 1, Kruger National Park, and 2, the Panorama Route. And I must also mention Graskop Gorge Company, because yes, they are along the Panorama area, but they are not typically part of the package you get, right? So you might have to make a separate plan to go there. Now, one thing I would advise, right, is to just get a tour guide. Hear me out, guys. So I know that especially if you drive there, you might feel like, oh yeah, if I've driven all this way, like why can't I just do the tourist activities by myself and drive myself around? But there are two things, right? In terms of visiting Kruger, the best way to experience this is in a safari vehicle, right? And with a tour guide, right? So I just advise that you get a tour guide for that package so that you're putting in a safari vehicle. Your tour guide is telling you about the animals as opposed to you driving your car into the game reserve and just like, I don't know, figuring your way out throughout, right? I don't know. I think it's just a more elevated experience when you do that. The tour guide way. And then for the panorama route, the reason why I advise you to also use a tour guide for that, a tour guide who provides their own vehicle, by the way, is because all the places that you're going to on the panorama route are like climbs, right? They are high up in the sky, they are mountains, you're looking at big views and stuff. And so there's a lot of climbing involved. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that you should get a tour guide who's driving you around and narrating like the story of these places to you, as opposed to you driving by yourself and being tired from driving and then getting down and walking again and walking back to your car and driving again to the next place. So the panorama route has about 6 stops. You're going to go to Berlin Falls, you're going to go to what's it called now, God's Window, you're going to go to the oh my gosh, why can't I remember all the names of the places? Guys, if you're going to the panorama route, I'm sure you know all the places you're going to, but whatever, I'm just going to leave them on the screen, okay? Yeah, so if you're going all those places, then you need to know that each of these places is like a 20-minute drive from each other or from one another. So you get to the first place, do the activities, drive 20 minutes to the next one and the next one, and then you're going to drive back all the way to your hotel. I feel like it's just a lot, and the roads there are also very narrow, very windy, very, it's mountains all the way, so you want to be careful. That's why I recommend a tour guide. I'm going to leave the name and phone number of my tour guide in the description box of this video. His name is SIPHO, and he was a delight to be around. Okay, he was really great at his job, and he just knew exactly where to take us, how to narrate things to us and all that. So I'm going to leave his number in case you find it in the description box. Also, if you want to look at other tour companies and other options for you, I advise you check on TripAdvisor, which is where we found SIPHO and his company. As a matter of fact, we had already booked another company where our safari was going to cost us 1,850 rands per person, if I remember correctly. And then the day before, we literally saw SIPHO's company, and it was 950 a person. We were very, very quick to like cancel the old one, go with him. And yes, I know that some of you might say, oh, probably compromise on quality and everything, but I mean, have you seen my safari vlog? Does it look like I missed out on stuff? Nah, I don't think so. So it was really good. So yeah, just check TripAdvisor, compare prices, and I also recommend that you call these people, ask them what their packages cover, because you don't want to just say, oh yeah, panorama route, and then you go there and they cover 5 out of the 7 places you genuinely want to go to, right? It's better to clarify all these things beforehand. Talk to them, get on the phone with them, ask them about like all the details. Like, I mean, you're traveling, you're spending your money, you shouldn't be shy to ask questions. Another thing that I must mention is, guys, do not make the mistake for any reason whatsoever of trying to do the safari and then the panorama route on the same day. It just cannot work. Like, even if you do a half-day safari, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you want to enjoy this experience, right? As a matter of fact, the day after we did our safari, we couldn't even do anything. We just had to rest because we were exhausted. And then the day after that, we then did like the panorama route, right? So this was over a span of 3 days. So I just advise that whatever you do, even if it's going to be 2 consecutive days, just book your Kruger experience and your panorama experience on 2 separate days so that you can enjoy it to the fullest. And lastly, concerning the tourist activities, I recommend that you go with your own water and snacks, because most of these places are in remote places. I mean, you can't find a shop to buy water from in Kruger. Yes, there are a few stops here and there. There's a few places to get lunch and stuff, but they don't just stop like out of the blue. There's time to stop. There's time to be on the road looking for the animals. Same as panorama, it's remote area, so you want to make sure that you have the things that you really need. So for us, we went with chips, we went with a little bit of fruit, we went with water and yeah, we don't regret that. So if you're going to these places, please have some snacks and water on you. And then if you want to go to the Graskop lift company, be sure to mention that to your tour guide. Chances are they will make time on the day of your panorama trip to go there, but it's typically not part of their package because the experiences there are a bit more expensive. So you'd have to go with money for that, by yourself. That might not be included in the package that you're paying for. Okay, now guys, so I'm just going to give you a likely budget, and I know this is the part that most of you have been waiting for. A likely budget based on my experience. Okay, so all together for this trip, if you're planning like a 5 to 6 days stay and you want to go to Kruger, you want to go to the Panorama Route, you want to perhaps go to the mall, do other activities, for 2 people, I'm going to say budget at least 15,000 rands for this. Okay, why? Because you're paying for all these things, right? Nothing is free, and I feel like the accommodation takes a chunk of that money. The accommodation will take about 6 to 7k out of that money, so the rest of the stuff is just like just an activity here, a meal there, and all that. So the minimum I think you should budget for this is 15,000 rands for 2 people for 5 to 6 days. But of course, it makes more sense to have more money. I mean, the more money you have, the more you enjoy, right? And have some backup, of course. Like I had said before, our Kruger safari cost us 950 rands per person. I think our panorama route thing cost us 2,200 for the full package for both of us. Also at Kruger, I know that there's an entry fee. It's about 150 rand for South Africans and 4 something for foreigners, but it would help to Google that before you go as well. And then if you go to Kruger the way we did, you would likely stop for breakfast at a place called Skukuza Rest Camp, and food there per person is like 120 to 150 rand. It's usually just like sandwiches and breakfast meals. And then there's another restaurant called the 3638 where you can get like bigger meals and stuff. They will typically stop there for lunch, and meals there range from like 200 and above for like a plate of food. So that just gives you like an idea of what's at Kruger. So if you know that you're good with those prices and you'd rather eat there, then by all means. And if those prices are a bit on the high side for you, then you might just want to go with like enough snacks so that you will be covered for the day until you leave. All right guys, so that is it for like the main tips I wanted to give you, but there are just a few things I think I would also recommend. Number one, take pictures, take lots of pictures. I feel like Mpumalanga is not somewhere, if you're going as a tourist, Mpumalanga is not somewhere you go now and then you go again next year and all that. You might want to space it out. So because you're there now, like take as many pictures as you can. Enjoy, like, just, you don't even have to be a content creator to take pictures and videos of your moments there. Like, just make sure that you keep those memories, right? Also, if you're going with people, please go with people that you enjoy, people whose company you enjoy. Don't go with people who are going to bore you, so that you can have a more wholesome experience. Okay, please make sure to carry cash, because like I said, all these places that you're going to are more remote areas, and so you wouldn't find like card machines in most places. If you're going to buy souvenir, you're going to have to pay for your souvenir in cash. So yes, go with your card and all that, but for the purpose of visiting like the panorama route and stuff, make sure that you have enough cash on you so that you can buy souvenir and buy whatever else you need. And lastly, and I feel like this is the most important tip of all, please be conscious of your safety. Wherever you go in this world, you need to make sure that you are safe. You need to make sure that you're conscious of like security and stuff. So please, whatever you do, don't get all too flashy, don't get too intoxicated or just ignorant wherever you go. Make sure that you protect yourself, protect your properties, make sure that you have a bag for things that matter, make sure that you hold your things well, and just stay safe. Okay, before you go, please don't forget to like this video, because when you like, this video gets recommended to other people so that more people can see all the good stuff we're doing here. Also, please remember to subscribe. Guys, don't be one of those people who comes, watches the content, runs away again and all that good stuff. Like, no, please just subscribe. I promise you that there's no shady stuff, no iffy weird stuff going on this channel. So yeah, you can afford to subscribe, so just do it. And please leave a comment if you got any other additional questions for me concerning like any of the things I spoke about in this video. Please leave a comment, let me know, and I will be glad to answer all your questions. Thanks for watching, thanks for being here. I will catch you guys on the next one.